The reason for this is that many adult dogs have already developed some form of reactivity by now, reactivity or overstimulation. And just taking your dog out to new places and around new things without having some system in place ahead of time to help work them through it is going to do nothing but make the reactivity or overstimulation worse. Socialization is another one of those dog training topics that I feel gets made way more complicated than it has to be. So I figured I'd take a crack at it and try to break it down in a way that's easier for everyone to understand. For me personally, there's really only two ways that I like to socialize a dog. And this first method I want to go over is one that most people are already familiar with. But ironically enough, I find it to be the least effective for most adult dogs. Let me explain. With the direct exposure method, the idea is to take your dog out to many different environments and have them interact with a large variety of people and dogs, as well as expose them to many different sights, sounds, smells, and sensations. With the only rule being to make sure that the dog has either a neutral or positive experience with every interaction you allow them to have. Or in other words, just make sure your dog doesn't have a negative experience. This approach can be good for the right dog and situation, but in my experience, it has a tendency to work about as often as it backfires, for adult dogs anyways. The reason for this is that many adult dogs have already developed some form of reactivity by now, reactivity or overstimulation. And just taking your dog out to new places and around new things without having some system in place ahead of time to help work them through it is going to do nothing but make the reactivity or overstimulation worse. But for puppies around the ages of 6 to 14 weeks, this method works extremely well. This is because at this age, they're very open to new experiences. And unless an experience is blatantly aversive, puppies will generally try anything once, and they usually grow and adapt and learn from it pretty easily. So for me personally, I like to use this method for young puppies, but not so much with dogs past about 4 months of age. So what do you do if you have a dog that's past that age? What's the best way to go about it? Well, that's where the second method comes in, because it works well for dogs of all ages. And in fact, even with the young puppies, I will use this direct exposure method in conjunction with this next method. With the indirect exposure method, the idea is to first teach your dog to play and interact with you in a calm, quiet environment away from a bunch of extra unnecessary stimuli. Then go to new places with the new things going on and have your dog play and interact with you around those new things. The key difference here from the first method is that you don't really allow your dog to directly interact with those new things. Instead, what you're doing is you're teaching them that it's not that big a deal. It's no big deal at all that other things are going on in the environment. And that actually all the fun is with you anyway, so there's no point in paying attention to it. With enough proper practice of this, the dog will start to not care or become neutral to new things in new environments. And just in my opinion, a properly socialized dog is neutral to everything in its environment. Contrary to popular belief, a properly socialized dog doesn't have to get along with everyone and everything. That's all determined by their early puppyhood socialization and their genetics. All you're really looking to achieve through this is to get the dog to not prematurely react to or become overstimulated by the environment. Or in other words, you're just trying to get the dog to become neutral to the environment. Really, at the end of the day, all this is good engagement training. And luckily for you, I've got several videos on engagement training on this channel. So feel free to check them out if you'd like some practical steps on how to achieve this. I hope this video helped you understand socialization a bit better and maybe even cleared up any misunderstandings you may have had about it. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask them in the comments. Good luck with your training, and I'll see you in the next video.